Hello, welcome to Getchyapulls number 72. It's Muj,
And it's Dan.
and
We're still kicking ass.
yeah, we're still alive. We saw Thor.
And we're going to talk about
We're
it.
gonna talk about it. We got
Hey!
other stuff to talk about too. We got comics and the news, but we saw Thor separately this week, and it's good. It's really fun.
Oh, yeah, it was a nice date night with the wife. I got out, don't get those very often anymore, so, at least not without the little one involved. And so we had a good time and got all of the 2013 Christmas shopping done at the Wilson household. So
Nice.
that's good too. Get it out of the way, ain't stressing about it, and got to enjoy Thor.
That's cool. Yes, I've kept my tradition alive of plan on doing it all on Black Friday, mostly just from the net, not sending any lines, not looking for $100 off a TV.
Not putting on pants.
Yes, exactly. I might also, you never know. I might also have porn on the screen at the same time that I buy my nanny a gift. I don't know. It just depends on when what goes on sale. But yeah, this one I went Thursday. We were just talking about for the thing. Thursdays, midnight showings. Like those always. Every midnight showing I went to did really well. I remember, but they started showing everything at midnight, so I think it just lost its luster. So now the new model is like they're just showing like starting at 8 o'clock. Basically things just open Thursday night. They get a 4 day week, which also gives them all these record breaking weekends that keep happening. It's like yeah, you're fucking showing the movie for 5 days instead of like three for the weekend. But I went to like a quarter. The theater was probably like a less than half full when I went Thursday, so it gave me like a little bit of stress. But then I made a bunch of money, so that was just apparently the one theater I was at on Thursday. There weren't that many people at it.
Yeah, 5:15 on a Saturday was sold out.
I mean, it's technically for kids. We love these movies. We're doing a podcast about comics, where the comics are way more for adults than these Marvel movies are. But these Marvel movies are technically for kids, so it makes sense that people got to go to school, so they're going to do their business on Friday and Saturday night, and even more on Sunday. It used to be a thing that like movies made a bunch Friday and Saturday and not so much Sunday. Sunday is almost like equaled out because with all, like I said, with the big movies being directed at wanting all ages in the theater, it makes sense that there'd be way more people there than Saturday than on Thursday night. You forget that being 30, like it's not really directed at us, so it makes sense that there's more kids there on the weekend than there are 30-year-olds on a Thursday night. But I thought it was really fun. I liked the movie. I liked it. I think I'd say it's a better movie than Iron Man 3 was, and I enjoyed it more. I enjoyed Iron Man 3 a lot in the theater. It's just when I stepped out of the theater, like now, it's like I got all the Marvel movies on Blu-ray, and it's one of those that I'm just like, I'll get it when it's cheap. Like I really have no desire like to watch Iron Man 3 again anytime soon. But Thor, on the other hand, like I would be whenever it comes out, I'll be excited to watch it again. So already, just a couple of days later, like that judges it. That I like it. I like it a lot better than that one.
Yeah, it ranks up there pretty high in the Marvel movies for me. I think as a metal fan, it was the most metal of the Marvel movies. It had a nice dark elf villain, and you got half of he gets all fucked up, and he's vicious, and he's gonna steal all the light from the world, and Thor swinging that hammer, and there's a lot of Asgardians, and many of them sexy. And it was a big movie, and it was a fun movie, as you said. I think that's the best way to describe it. It was nothing but pure Marvel cosmic fun. If you know what to expect from these movies, then this was probably them at their best with that formula. Looking forward to Captain America 2, hoping that it tops it. I think it's got all the potential in the world to do so with the Winter Soldier storyline, but
It might. I really wonder where they're going to go with Captain America 2 because now coming off the fact that Avengers was great and I enjoyed it, but it certainly was like that was really the beginning because really, man, you think about like the first two Iron Man movies weren't like as like I don't want to say goofy like a bad thing, but that's the only word I can think of. They weren't as goofy, like they were light, but there wasn't as much like less during the most intense moments, like, it's time to do stand up, which is fine. I mean, this movie is way better than Iron Man 2, so I mean, that's, it's not like a detriment. But they really have starting with Avengers. I mean, even the first Thor, like, it was a lot. I mean, it was, it had some cheesy stuff in it, for sure. But really starting with Avengers, it seems like they've made, like, a complete, like, this is our gimmick now. Like, we're really gonna, like, put more jokes and humor in these movies. And then Iron Man 3 was, like, the worst of it. I mean, for good or bad, it had the most of that. This had a lot, too. Like, thinking about that Cat movie, like, I don't know, like, I'm trying to, like, readjust, like, what my hopes for it, because if it stays on the same pace, like the Winter Soldier movie that I want to see based off the comics and stuff that I read, is not going to happen. Like, you can't do, I can't emotionally, maybe because you've already read the comic, but just watching the movie, I can't, like, the moment when Steve figures out it's Bucky, if he has to stop to drink a Pepsi beforehand. Like, I'm not gonna care like I did when I read the comic. So it's gonna be interesting. I mean, I hope, I mean, it's not gonna be as serious as like the book, but I hope that it's like it doesn't have as much humor as like this movie and the last couple have, because I think that it might make them more money, but it's not gonna be as enjoyable, because you really need a little bit. It doesn't have to be, like I said, it doesn't have to be the Dark Knight, but it needs to be a little bit more serious to get the most out of the story.
Yeah, and it's not like you can't serve both masters there. I mean, Cap certainly has a little bit of humor built into the character.
Oh, yeah.
But it's much more serious than Thor or Iron Man ever were.
Yeah, you got to find the balance. I mean, because, I like Man of Steel a lot, and, you hear, especially me on here all the time, like, just as a preference, there's just too many jokes and stuff in some of these movies for me, even though I like them. Man of Steel was the opposite. Like, you have to find a balance. Like, that was one of my main complaints from that movie, is there wasn't hardly any humor in it. And it was like, you could have had two or three extra moments that you could have thrown in something funny to lighten the mood a little bit. Because it is like the opposite. Man of Steel was just like, it was the get down mix. It was just like sad, sadder, feel bad for Clark, sadder, everybody's dead. Oh man, he had to kill Zod. Like, well, I'm glad he won, but that was a bummer, and I loved it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I guess that's my movie preference. Is like when that comes out on Blu-ray, I'm gonna watch it 3 or 4 times. I will rewatch that movie more than I'll probably rewatch Avengers in my life, just because there's just more going on, like emotionally. Even if Avengers, you might be able to argue it's a better movie, but that's almost a preference thing, but I'll be more interested in it. But I just hope they find the balance with Cap, because even if I like it, like, I would like to be taken like on an emotional journey, in a movie. Like, those are the ones that you want to rewatch, the ones where there are ups and downs. These Marvel movies are awesome. I had a great time. If I was I'd give Thor like 8 out of 10. I thought it was great. But I'm hoping Cap is more like, this is just all happy. That happened, whatever. Happier. It's like, it started you out like on a level 9 out of 10 pumped. You never got below like a 7. Maybe when his mom dies, you're down to a 7, but you're still just like,
Spoiler alert.
Yes, yeah, spoiler all. Yeah, if you listen to this pod, I'm gonna think you like comics enough to where you've probably seen Thor already. But if you haven't, fuck you.
Yeah, we usually do drop spoilers, but I just noticed we kind of had. The only thing I'd come close to saying was about Malekith getting his face burnt, and I kind of backed off of it because we hadn't really jumped into that territory. But
yeah,
now we're in it, so
yeah, I really feel like with our pod and with other stuff too, I'm taking a new stance on spoilers when it comes to certain stuff. Yeah, you're a dick if you go like on social media and tweet, Thor's mom died in this movie, it was sad. But if you listen to like us, if you listen to a podcast that talks about comics, you gotta know we're gonna talk about it. And I feel no need not to spoil, because that's just it. Because it's really hard to talk about like some of the stuff in the movie without spoiling it.
Yeah, sure.
But
we have to generate content somehow. Goddamn.
Yeah, that's what it. Yeah, exactly. That's it. But like on comics, like, we're gonna spoil what happened in the comics every week. So listen to us. If you didn't have time to get around to reading your comics yet, read your comics first, and then listen to us. But anyways, yeah, I mean, that was it. So I would say it started out at like a level 9 on like just fun, went down to like a level 7 for like 3 minutes, and then got back up to level 10. It was at like a level 9 almost the whole movie. Like even like because it just can't all be that. Like they then they threw in like little things that happen that you're like, oh maybe maybe Loki's dead, and maybe something bad's gonna happen to Jane, but no more than 30 seconds of like that at a time. To which you even like immediately, I don't know how far into the movie you were, you might have been like, oh man, something bad might happen to them, and then you immediately knew they didn't. So it's it's just, and that's really been the formula. I mean, it's working. I mean, it's not critically winning, um, but it's the people are speaking with their wallets, and it's what people like to say. I guess with the world being so shitty right now, I mean, it's really what it is like an answer to just everyone hates everything because the economy still sucks. Nobody's happy with the government. Everybody's afraid that bad things are going to happen. Everybody's afraid of every time there's a new law enacted. It seems like it makes life harder to live. So it's really like at a point to where when people, I mean, you're seeing by the way that people's money speak when they go to the movies, they just want like 100% fun.
Yeah, they do.
And that's it.
And I think that also speaks to the rise of the superhero genre while we're at it. I mean, things are shitty. You want something that's kind of fantastical that can take you away from it, and someone or somebody to believe in, because certainly not a lot of those
There's
role
not a lot of
models
those
out
real
there
life.
today.
Yes, not a lot in real
certainly
life.
aren't.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't compare it. I mean, if you think about like, if you go back to when superheroes were first created, that was like the most scared Americans ever were, and all of those characters, for the most part, in the '40s were black and white. Like Superman is like in every comic, like saving 5 people at a time, and it's just complete like it's just all good. No real drama. I'm not saying Thor's drama free, but it's like there's no real stakes. Like the good guys are gonna win, and nothing that bad's gonna happen. I mean, it might even be the fact that his mom died in the movie is like surprising because you don't think that any of the good
Yeah.
guys are gonna happen, but it's still
I thought so, and I thought the fucking Asgardian funeral sequence was epic. Like the way they fucking lit her first, I think it was Game of Thrones that I've seen that on. What have I seen it on?
yeah.
Where
You
they
see
light
that?
the
Yeah,
fucking-
yeah. You see, that's the thing is I've seen
the
one of those that I
funeral
thought was
pyre.
way more sad, and while watching it, like, I mean, it almost did like, and this is a personal thing, but it took me out of it, and I was just like, what is it? Where they fucking did that? And I was like, yes, it's Game of Thrones when it's right at the beginning of the very first, or no, it's in Game of Thrones when Robert's after Robert dies, after his brother dies, isn't it?
Is it after what? Renly?
I think it might be when Renly dies. I don't know, but
Okay.
they do the funeral pyre in Game of Thrones, and remember it's like a funny thing where they're shooting the arrow and he misses a couple times, and then they have to it takes them a couple times to actually hit it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that was totally. I mean, Game of Thrones probably got it from somewhere, but
Well, I kind of thought it was a nod from Alan Taylor. There was like a couple of those actually. There's a moment when a big raven is sitting on Odin's shoulder when he's standing outside, and like that's not really a common thing. And the way it flew in, I thought it was just a kind of little wink to Game of Thrones, and I also thought, but anyway. So, they send the queen out first, but like a bunch of people died in this attack. And so, it adds the Asgardian twist. It's like they're going to go over the waterfall, and like they put their bodies on a fucking boat and they shoot a lighted arrow out and hit the boat. It catches on fire and they're burning and they're playing music and like fireworks and shit going off in the air. And as the pyre's about to go over the edge, instead it like floats out into the stratosphere, and you can see like their soul dissolving and going up into the heavens, and that was crazy. But then behind her was like a fucking row of like 100 of the people that got killed in the battle, and they were behind her. Like it was pretty fucking awesome. It was an awesome visual spectacle, and I thought it was
cool.
It was on par. I wouldn't put it like as big as like Spock going down to Amazing Grace and the bagpipes, but it was definitely good.
I mean, yeah, it was good. I mean, it was like a really cool scene and like a more dramatic movie where there's like more stakes. Like it probably would have like played like more serious to you, but or to me, or just in general. Love the like, but yeah, I mean, it was cool. It's a really fun movie. They keep, you know, I keep seeing them. They keep punching them out like this. It's not exactly what it's not exactly what I would draw up that I want for all these movies, but they're like undeniably they're just fun. I'm glad DC does something different because that's more down my alley. Is like something that at least plays like when I say realistic. People are like, oh, it's not more realistic, blah blah. Blah. It's like yeah, I mean it feels more real. Like Superman felt like that. If you can believe, just take for the fact there's a Superman that's alive. It feels like it's happening here. Like Thor doesn't feel like it's happening
I mean,
here,
and
but it's
hey,
fun.
for all the shit that Sony and Fox get for the Spider-Man and X-Men properties, they're different companies, so at least those movies
X
do
Men is
have a
way more
chance to
serious.
have a different direction than the others.
X Men,
So that is actually a good thing, I think. You
yeah.
got to think if those
And you
characters.
saw the previews for Days of Futures Past. Like that preview had more serious things happening in it than happened in Avengers, Iron Man 3, and Thor.
Yeah, it's just like I'm saying, keep some
Yes.
variety out there for the fans because
Yeah.
you got to think if Marvel had Spider-Man and X-Men in
Oh,
their
they're
bullpen,
oh
it
they're gonna
would
tone
be
them
the
down just
similar
like that.
thing,
Yes. Yeah, which kind of brings us to the next bit of news, which I'll be interested to see what they actually do with these characters because it's I don't know. I just doing like what they claim they're going to do, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if it's the same thing. But Marvel announced a crazy deal with Netflix where they're going to produce 5 12 episode series. Don't know if they're going to be like. I think they said it's going to be over like a 4 to 5 year span, so it's probably going to be one a year, one every like 8 or 9 months or something. But they're going to put them out, all at once, so you can watch them all in two settings on Netflix. 4 series, which is going to culminate in a fifth, The Defenders, with no actual Defenders, or maybe somebody in it, but not the right team. But anyways, that's what they're going to call it. But everybody's wondering what they're going to do with Daredevil, and figured it out. Daredevil will really being the A-list guy on the crew. There's going to be a Daredevil series.
Yeah, I just kind of wish they would just do a Daredevil series and just have the rest of those characters guest star in it.
Yeah, some of the
Could
characters.
we just get 4 seasons of a Daredevil series?
Yeah, some of the series I don't know about. Well, they're doing Iron Fist, and I guess trying to like go with the different genres.
Yeah, I mean, you got the
He
kung
makes
fu
sense.
and like all the Chinese mysticism stuff in there, like that. I mean, you definitely have a different atmosphere
Yeah.
to play with, a different toolbox, so to speak.
But then the two that I'm like, we'll see. I mean, if you can make this something interesting, then good for you, and who knows? Because I mean, it is more about the writers than the characters. But the fact they're doing Jessica Jones,
Yeah,
like
that's
that's an interesting because there just are within the Marvel universe. I mean, like I'm not saying this is it. I don't want anybody being like, oh, but I think most likely, like we're going to do 4 series. We should do one of them about a female character, which makes sense because why wouldn't you? And it seems like they were just like, who should we pick? And that's who they pick. There just seems to be like just better choices.
Well, she fits in the context of the characters they picked because she's Luke Cage's longtime wife.
But
and
why
the
is there a
mother
Luke
of his
Cage
kid.
and a Jessica Jones? I mean, I guess.
And an Iron Fist, it
This-
should all be one. It's
Yeah.
like Heroes for Hire because they're
Yeah.
all from that universe,
Yeah. I mean,
essentially. So
I
that's
guess
weird.
what they do with the characters could be totally different. I mean, I guess you're probably, Jessica Jones is not going to be married to Luke Cage when their series start. Maybe that'll be a plot development that happens over the course of it. But yeah, like them, like a Luke Cage and Jessica Jones series. Like, I mean, you gotta think though, so many other characters in development at this point, they are starting to pull from that tier of people where they're just like, let's get these things out there. But
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I ever really liked the character of Jessica Jones. She was most prominent in the Marvel Max series Alias, and then they brought her
Yeah.
into the 616 and had her date and Luke Cage, and she was real big in the Bendis run of the Avengers. Like that relationship was one of his big writing points in his run. That's really her biggest claim to fame, so it'll be interesting. I mean, they kind of have a clean slate in that respect, as if they cast a really good actress and write some interesting stories, then I think she could probably evolve higher than her place on the totem pole.
Yeah.
If not, then it.
But they're
it
doing,
might
they're
suck.
trying to take the same formula as the movies. We're going to do all 4 single series, and they're gonna do one big series, all the characters together. So we'll see. Like, I'm excited for Daredevil because and it depends on what they do too. Because they've also said it's gonna be set in Hell's Kitchen, so it's gonna be a grittier version of the Marvel universe. Well, we'll fucking see. Because I also heard months ago that Thor was gonna be like a much more serious movie than the first Thor, and it wasn't. It was a lot better, but it might in fact be a less serious movie than the first Thor. So their idea of gritty, just it's probably the fact that it's actually going to be like on the streets, that doesn't necessarily make it gritty. We're gonna have to see if they actually take it like any darker. Because I mean, Daredevil.
Well, they gotta
and of all the characters,
like a PG-13, or are those movies already a PG-13?
I'm not sure. I mean,
I think
they're PG-13. I don't know. In PG, can you say shit?
Yeah.
I know
you
PG...
definitely could say shit in you could say a lot of cuss words in PG movies in the 80s, but now it's just changed over.
Well, I think that's why they made PG-13 was because of like things that you can get away with that you can't. I mean, I know you can't say fuck. You can say fuck once in a PG-13,
yep.
But I mean, there's been no fucks in these movies. It was just a couple, like 2 shits, and Thor was the only cussing. Yeah, I don't know. I would hope. I mean, it's going to be, like I said. I mean, it doesn't need to be like a rated R, but for Daredevil to work, I mean, it's just. I mean, Mark Waid's current Daredevil run is not serious and is awesome, but the best like Daredevil is just so famous for being Marvel's Batman, and that's his stories are so much more serious.
He's a Marvel broke ass Batman too, which makes it much more interesting.
Yeah.
Like just because you've seen a million different takes on characters inspired by Batman, so Daredevil's like they take that mythos and they kind of turn it around to where he's a struggling lawyer. Yeah,
you just gotta hope that they at least take it like more darker than anything else they're currently doing. It's got to be darker than anything they're currently doing. They've really gone the opposite, man. The first Iron Man movie was probably the darkest Marvel movie they've made since starting the Avengers universe. That movie, even though it's not super dark, is way darker than anything they've done like now, but yeah, but I mean that's exciting. Like I said, we're gonna see. Hopefully, it's not gonna be Superman superhero overload. I mean, between that being on Netflix and DC is just licensing out properties like they're fucking going out of business.
Oh, I'm really concerned about that because like I love Arrow so much. Like I started watching that show and I was like, well, I'll give it a chance.
Yes.
It's not fucking the Green Arrow from Smallville, so it's probably gonna fucking suck, but I'll give it a chance.
Yeah, but it's better than the Green Arrow from Smallville.
Oh, it's so much better.
I think both my preference wise, and if you want to argue what's just a better produced show, I think Arrow is better than Shield. Leave that up to the listeners, but I think it would be hard for somebody to.
Yeah,
on preference, you can prefer whichever you want because I mean that's what entertainment's about. But if you want to argue with like the acting, the scripts, the way the show's shot, it would be hard for somebody to argue with me that,
even
that Shield looks better.
You're featuring a fucking member of the Justice League against a fucking team of people who were written to be in the comics, Joel Coulson anyway, because of his popularity as a second tier character in the movies.
Yeah.
It's just like Arrow is I like Shield much more than you do. Surprise, surprise to anyone listening to the show, but it's not Arrow. Arrow is fantastic. I think Shield's alright. Shield's pretty good, but it's not fucking Arrow. Arrow is like it's one of my favorite shows on TV right now. It's only gotten better in the second season.
Yeah, second season's got way better. I'm afraid of overload on that. And then the last bit of news, it's not really much, just rumors, but the Superman vs. Batman rumors are starting to go crazy. People thought maybe some of that would be answered. They did a live thing for the release of the Blu-ray. Kevin Smith hosted on Saturday.
Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder. He had everybody. He had Zack Snyder and Amy Adams and the whole team. But there was no information given at all. Like people were like, "Is there anything you tell us about Man of Steel 2?" And Zack Snyder was like, "No." So that was basically it. But there's rumors now that they're casting a Nightwing. There's a character they're casting that just based on because I mean, you can hide the script all you want, but you have to like put out casting calls, and based on the description of the character, people are like, "Oh, that's Nightwing." They say they want. It's weird too. They say they want a young John Hawkes type, which you probably don't know who John Hawkes is because he's not like he's in a bunch of shit, but he's not a household name. But he's in. If you ever watch Deadwood, he's in Deadwood. He's in a bunch of stuff, but he's just kind of like a normal looking dude. But a young version of him, which people automatically like, if you age him down, you're like, that's kind of like what Nightwing looks like. So might not be him, but that's a big rumor. Is it?
So by that sleuth investigative reporting, they figured out that
Yes.
Nightwing is going to be in the movie.
But it's a featured role in the movie. That's the thing that is getting people, is that you obviously have Batman, Superman, Lois, Luthor. They confirm that was the only thing was confirmation, which wasn't a secret, but confirmation that Luthor will be in the movie and he will be the main bad guy basically. And Zack Snyder did say that like he's having fun because Luthor they're going to play up the fact that almost like a racial slur, like Luthor keeps calling like won't not refer to Superman as an alien, like that's a bad thing, which he is technically, which brings brings all sorts of discussion of real life of like how do you differ between people. Like if someone with black skin, I can't be like when I'm describing someone to be like that black guy, or that like how somehow that's bad when you're just describing something that is Superman would technically be an alien. He was talking about how that's going to be an argument, like Luther's going to be like, what? He is an alien. Why me calling him an alien? Why does that make me bad? I'm calling it like it is, but like that's pretty interesting. So that's a good idea for the movie. But that's really all they released. And of course Wonder Woman, that's a huge thing, which immediately to me is like, you assume it's not going to be like a trifecta, like it's not going to be Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, obviously. And I don't think it's just going to come out of nowhere where they're going to like call the movie Trinity or something. Because if Wonder Woman was going to have an equal part in the movie, then they would have announced that at Comic-Con, or else they just have no idea what they're doing. If they just came up between now and then, let's march Wonder Woman in this thing. But hopefully it's just going to be like a small appearance, like an Avengers-esque appearance.
As a world-building thing, where
Yeah.
it's like, okay, the movie's about Superman and Batman, and apparently they're fighting. They've confirmed that much, which we all expected. But now we know for sure they're definitely going to fight, like any superhero team-up starts.
Yeah, you expect they're going to fight in the first act, and they're actually going to physically fight. They're not like Avengers, which I did love, but they're not going to have a teenage argument for 5 minutes in a room. Like, that's Avengers. That's their version of fighting. I mean, Thor and Iron Man fought a little, but most of it was them standing around the table going, "You got long hair, you suck." He's like, "Well, you're a dickhead." "Oh, this isn't the '40s, Cap." Like, they're probably going to be a little bit more intense. But actually, over the Superman thing, that's the big rumor, is that Batman's going to come to town because he's not happy that Superman let Metropolis get destroyed. They're actually going to talk about that in the movie, which apparently was part of the plan already when they started talking about the movie. So for all the people that are like, "Why didn't you address it?" Well, there's going to be another movie, or it's going to be like a big part of the movie.
Yeah, and it's like you're telling this new Superman story, so you've got to get these moral, codes from somewhere. So possibly these things happen to create them. I don't know. But anyway, I could see like Wonder Woman coming in at the end after they fought and kissed and made up and being like, hey, and we need to fucking team up and Justice League.
That would be my most favorite thing, is if it's just like almost like a small thing. Like, hey, we're putting a team together. Or maybe a small thing that doesn't even have to do with them. Maybe Lois or somebody sees her do something crazy and are like, "Holy shit, what's this?" And then, like, we need more people. It's like, well, who's out there? Like, we know one person. And you walk up and she introduces herself, I have full confidence that, like, they know what they're doing and building the universe. I mean, because there's just a map of it with Marvel. I mean, there's obviously going to be different tones to these movies in the Marvel movies, but it's pretty easy to see what the people want. That's really been the biggest thing of Marvel, too, is they really do. They listen to exactly what people are asking for and just do it. They're not trying to surprise you, whatever. They're just like, "Oh, you think this would be cool? Well, we're going to make it for you." And that's going to be the thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes. But on the comics, we got comics.
Hey, it was a good week for comics for me. It was a short one, but I enjoyed them all.
I had a big week, yet a good one, which is domed by the big two themselves, old Bat and Soups. Let's see. Talk about them last. So that Trillium #4 came. It was good. It's the first completely normal issue where it's all you read it through like a regular comic.
Where you don't have to flip it upside down.
Yes, you don't have to flip it
halfway
upside
through.
down halfway through or every other page, which was not the best ever.
Are you getting paged over there, Muji? Speaking of pages,
Oh,
you
this
have a
is-
fucking pager.
That's my phone dying.
Oh, okay.
If I did have a pager though, then I would have it because I'm awesome and because I'm bringing it back, not because I'm that old. Pagers are pre-me. Like people, by the time I got old enough to, it's not like kids now when you're like 7, you get a cell phone. Like, we didn't get cell phones until past the point where pagers weren't a thing anymore. Did you ever have a pager?
I had a pager.
You had a pager. You barely got in.
I didn't intentionally have a pager. Like, I had a job where they made me have a pager, and that was the
Okay.
thing at the time.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I didn't get my first cell phone until I was 19, so that was still that was 11 ago. Pagers are pretty much dead by then. But
Yeah.
anywho, Trillium, liked it. Getting a little bit more into the story. The characters actually come together and are in the same time, can understand each other, so that's good. But I've enjoyed it so far. Enjoyed that issue. Fatal's back, and it was awesome. #18, a bit of a game changer. All the issues before, the big stories. Josephine has amnesia, doesn't kind of know what's going on. In the last issue, you remember that she, dude tried to take advantage of her, so she cursed him and he killed himself. Well, this is the fallout of that, and now the whole group, is exposed to the fact that crazy things are happening. It starts bringing back some memories for her. So, and all the, and she's got a couple of different people chasing after her, and apparently you get to find out that like when she like kind of uses her powers, that puts some of the demon guys like onto her scent. So now they're all in different places, and and the main guys like, oh shit, like she's back, like they've traced her because she actually uses her powers, and then she remembers she has the power. So it's a pretty big issue. On to DC. Got 5 DC books. No Marvel once again. Started to look at this, man, and I don't know how it's happened, but I'm down to like 4 or 5 Marvel books. I'm gonna have to see when they relaunch everything what's gonna get added back, because I need a little bit more.
So they're combining X forces.
That looked pretty cool, and they said that they were gonna make it. They were gonna like take it a lot more serious than the last few have happened. I guess. Remender took it very serious. It wasn't that long ago that it was, but I think that's what they said. They're gonna take it way more back in that tone than it's been.
It'll be the guy that's writing Cable in the X Force now, Dennis Hopeless, and I really enjoyed. I did that last week. I'm back to the long box, and he's got a good rhythm for writing. Like he almost presents it like a TV show, so it should be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, and it seems like they're putting a bigger team back together. Like it almost makes you think maybe they're starting to do like a test run for the the announced X-Force movie. Try to get some momentum building towards that. But I got it's all either Superman or Batman 0-year tie-ins. I got Green Arrow #25 0-year tie-in. Very enjoyable. It's the regular creative team, so it's Lemire, and it's just a 0-year story. It's cool what they've done with it because they're not really tying into Snyder's Batman story. Like it's almost like you can imagine it's just 0 month. Like if you haven't, and then I saw Snyder tweeting about it, which makes sense. He said all these other books that are like, 0 years. So there's like a Green Lantern Corps and all these things were just like, why did they tie into 0 year? Well, basically it's just what they were doing 5 years ago, and like and maybe there's a mention like in this Green Arrow, there's a mention during his story that he heard over the news that Gotham, has gone black, and because that's the big story in Batman, coming up is that there's a citywide blackout, and the Riddler causes the power grid to shut down. There's a mention of that, but it's just all about Oliver right when he first showed back up. It's funny watching the show and the book. It's like you got to keep the storylines exactly like in, which one's which. But that's it. Is he's flashing back to 5 years ago, and everybody thinks he's dead, and he's meets a couple people for the first time. It's like, hey, I'm not dead, I'm back, and that's it. So it's just a story about Oliver 5 years ago. Really doesn't have anything to do with Batman. So it's cool. It's good. It fits completely in there. It's not, you hate it when they try to if he went to Gotham for some reason, it would just be like, oh, why? So that's not it. But,
Yeah, well, that's a good device for the guys. It's like they've got this little gimmick, but it's like, hey, you can use it to tell a story that progresses what you're doing.
yeah, exactly. And a lot of these people, even though, you had one, maybe just a 0 year, like you got kind of an origin on people for 20 pages, there's a lot that has been left out. And so stuff like this gives them a chance to fill in some of those gaps. And then Action Comics, also 0 year, which is cool. Greg Pak on the book. Loved it. It's back on the pull list. It's just really good. It's Action Comics 0 year, so it's young Clark just doing some fighting.
That's a nice way for Greg Pak to debut.
Yeah, he can't even fly. He can't even fly yet in this. He's got.
It's like a real fresh take on it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. He's got There's a big accident about to happen, and there's a big storm coming. And Clark is still exploring his powers, like he doesn't yet know really he can fly, kind of like he did in the Morrison. He does like the jump. He can jump real high and do stuff like that, but he doesn't know exactly like what his powers can do. So he's trying to stop like a storm, that's going to take out the ship, and then of course he really can't. So he's just going to try to do the rescue afterwards. It's pretty awesome. Enjoyed it a lot. It makes me really pumped up for Pack on Action Comics. He's really doing well. And over to Detective, issue 25, 0 year, is all just about Gordon. So it's awesome. Batman makes a very small appearance in it, but it's Gordon basically during the blackout for just a second, and then something makes him flash back to when he was coming up. And it's just kind of the retelling of, he doesn't become commissioner in it or anything, but it's just showing some of the corruption that he had to deal with when he's a young detective, and shows him getting set up, and has a really great payoff. I won't spoil it because you haven't read it, but he's telling a story about how the mob almost killed him, and there's a really awesome payoff to the story in it.
Oh,
so
hell yeah, man. I'm always down for a Gordon story.
enjoyed it a lot. And then over to a Batman Superman number 5. Has nothing to do with the 0 year, but it's Batman Supes. They're back. They're back on our Earth.
Still Jay Lee drawing it?
It's not Jay Lee. No, it is moved over to Brett Booth is doing this arc.
Brett Booth. What do I know him from?
He's been around for a long time. I saw a bunch of people really excited about him doing this, and a lot of people that weren't. But I think he's been. I don't know. I think he's worked for Marvel and DC. I'm not sure exactly what he's done, but I know they promoted it as like another big name on the book. I think that's kind of their gimmick,
Cool.
is they want famous people. But
Looks good.
It looks great. It's got this different art style where it's like a calendar, like the whole book, because a lot of the book is like half of the book is what Batman's doing, what Superman doing. I kind of like it. What's weird though is in this book, also written by Greg Pak, I enjoy the story, but I'm not 100% down for like the way Clark and like Bruce talk to each other. Like they're really like in some of the things almost talk to each other like teenagers, which is not like what they're supposed to be here. And they just say some weird stuff. I'll just let you read it. You can decide, but there's some dialogue that's like Clark Kent wouldn't say that. Like it's almost the way that I felt like he didn't say this, but he said something to the equivalent of like he told Lois he was going to do him or something in one of those Lobdell Superman books, which people were just like, he would never talk like that. Like if Clark Kent was a teenager in 2010 or 1940, he's yes ma'am and yes sir, and he's talking like the most fucking vanilla guy of all time. So it's kind of weird the dynamic they have in the book, but I still enjoy it. I'm not.
So it is taking place now. It's not like, as I remember, the first story of Batman Superman was in their early days.
I mean, it's sometime. It's not. It's them working together, and they've. It's got to be now because Clark. They mentioned that they've worked together. If it's not now, it's not like their beginning either, because like Batman in the book mentions he and Clark have been working together for a few years, and so we're only supposed to be 5 or 6 years in, so it's it's later. I mean, he's not got jeans, he's got his actual suit and stuff, so it definitely time jumps. So who the hell knows? But I liked it, but it is gonna see how it's gonna go. It's weird. I thought Pack wrote Clark way better in Action Comics than he did in that book, and also everything else. He's really done good in Superman. I mean, he did like the really good like tie-ins, on Villains Month. He wrote some of the strongest stuff. Was
Sure
his
did.
story. So, and then on to my last book, Superman Unchained number 4, which is awesome. It's all about.
Heard good things about Lex Luthor.
It's all about Luthor. As you can see, if you just want a quick preview, he's the best at making paper dolls of all time. He makes these paper dolls. He's got Jimmy Olsen, like chained to a chair, and is apparently going to do something to him. I think he's getting ready to inject him with something at the end of the comic. So he's going to do something. He's going to have Olsen work for him. But he's telling him the story of like what's going to happen to all of his heroes, and he's got these dolls. And at first you're just like, they've got, I guess he bought some Justice League action figures. But then he like crumbles them up, and he talks about how it's a Snyder-esque like great speech about how making these paper things extremely hard. And it's an ancient art form, and you got to have patience and all this crap that he poetically puts. But the moment you realize that they're paper dolls that Lex Luthor made, you're like, what the fuck? Give me a break! They look like action figures. But anyways, it's awesome. It's Superman and the other crazy, possibly from Krypton alien guy that he's fighting with, whose name has escaped me, and it's probably not going to end up being from Krypton, but they're just both fighting, and they're fighting all sorts of airplanes and shit, and it's cool. It's like mostly action. Get with Soups, they're having dialogue, but it's mostly action, and you get Lois's side story where she's really getting the scoop and trying to figure out what's going on, and at the same time it's being almost narrated by Luthor as you get his plan. So there's a shit ton going on in this book as it continues. Like you've really got, I'm sure they'll come together at some point, but at this point, Lois, Lex, and Clark all have their own stories that are going simultaneously through the book. But it was really fun. I'm glad it's back. I don't think one came out last month during Villains Month.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, so, this is just number 4, but glad it's back and enjoyed it. And of course, with Snyder, with Jim Lee doing the art, it looks as fantastic as possible. And I see Luthor, throughout. He was in Morris and stuff, but whatever. And because regular Superman has been so weak, it feels like Luthor has been almost a forgotten man in the New 52 until the last couple months, and now he's really coming into play and becoming like a much bigger deal, which is awesome.
Yeah, I really didn't care for the way Morrison presented him, but I think that they're getting him back to the way he should be.
Yeah, he should be, honestly, next to the Joker, like the number 2 villain, or even the number 1 villain, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah, depending on who you like.
Because Luthor's there all the time, and the Joker can only be there in doses. Luthor's omnipresent, and the Joker's Michael Myers,
The Luthor is woven into the fabric of the DC universe, certainly.
He's technically the first ever, he's the first comic book villain.
Yeah, he's the greatest, or one of them. He's definitely one of them. DC, we'll stay here in the New 52 for a moment. Green Lantern number 25. Robert Venditti, Billy Tan, back again.
Does it have the gloss cover?
No.
Oh, it's got the reg. The 0 year.
It maintained its $2.99.
Yeah, exactly. You'll trade the fucking. I would too. Trade the regular cover for $1, motherfuckers.
So, in the fallout of the War of Light with Relic and all of that business, Lights Out was the event, about the 8,000th Green Lantern event of the year. We learned that the emotional spectrum is not infinite, that the power is eventually going to run out one day. They got lucky and refilled it this time, but it cost them the lives of all of the entities. And so, because of this, they've decided that most of the Green Lantern Corps quit. Hal convinced a few key members like Kilowog and some of the others to stick around, John Stewart. And so they inhabit Mogo, and they are charging themselves with policing the light and making sure that nobody abuses it. And so, of course, right away, that doesn't sit well with the other colored lanterns like the Star Sapphires, and he and his ex-girlfriend have a fight that makes everybody uncomfortable, and Hal bails and goes and takes out his rage on a rogue Star Sapphire who they know is abusing the light. They're having trouble figuring out who the first person to go after is, so they go after her, have a brutal fight with her, and come to find out that she's more than meets the eye. This is a really good issue. I really hope, like I said, I really am digging Venditti's writing, but this book is on the chopping block only because they've about invented me to death, and I've heard there's another potential event in the Green Lantern universe coming involving a new Red Lantern. Possibly Supergirl is the rumor. That Supergirl is going to be the new leader of the Red Lanterns.
Dude, there's crazy rumors going on. Like, there's big rumors that Supergirl might die, and now there's that rumor.
So that's crazy. But I've a 2-arc minimum is what I said. What I said last week, and I'm holding to it. Green Lantern they got to give me 2 arcs complete before they stick me with another bullshit crossover. I'm dropping the book. I just don't have time for it. Don't have time. Don't have money for this shit. But still, props to Venditti and Billy Tane. It's still a good book. And moving on to DC's real crown jewel this week in my 2-point stack.
Yes. You have a weird joy of book dropping. I dropped just as many books as you. I mean, I'm the same. You know me. I'm just like, I've dropped Action Comics twice. Just because, you know, if it's fucking not good, I'm just not wasting my money on it. But you'd always have a gleam in your eye, like putting your hands together, like you're like, I'm dropping that motherfucker. like you got back, you know. It's like you got back at them for taking your money for these few weeks. Like, I'm gonna show these assholes. It's like I dropped that bitch.
Hey, the only way you can speak is with your wallet in the consumer-driven world, man.
In your podcast.
That's right. Oh, well, what the fuck I say here is not going to have a goddamn thing to do with how they do business.
Most likely not, but it would be the best thing ever is if you got like a tweet from Dan Didio. It's like, hey,
cut it out, guy.
Hey, quit that, guys. Like, sweet.
Okay, sorry, dude. Forever Evil, man. I'm just loving it. I'm loving the Crime Syndicate. I am loving, like, this. They really put the Justice League in a world of hurt. Probably for the first time in the New 52, they've really been in serious distress. Kind of see what happens with Cyborg. Lex Luthor and Bizarro's journey continues and is fucking outstanding.
Nice.
And they actually run into a couple of other villains and decide that possibly this crime syndicate fucks need to be took down. And that's always good. So we're almost about to get like a dream team of DC villains and go take on the Crime Syndicate. And if the Joker was in it, it would be the greatest thing ever. But we probably aren't going to have that because it just wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, because he would just want them all to die.
Yeah, he would just try to kill them all. The Joker's really not the guy that's going to team up.
Yeah, I'm pumped to check that out. So far, man, Forever Evil, I mean, it's not all the way done yet, but in the 2 years, we've been getting weekly comics. At this point, it's my favorite event that I've read. So we'll see how it keeps going.
Yeah, unique concept. I mean, they haven't really done anything with the villains like that in a while. So
no, and it is DC's first like a real big event. So.
Yeah, universe wide.
Yeah, I mean, you get killed on certain like the families of books have done a lot of them, but it is, and they had like the Trinity War, you know, but it was contained. Like this is their first like gotta buy it separate giant event book.
Yeah. But we'll move along to the Marvel Universe in the 616. Captain America number 13. Rick Remender's Captain America gets better with every issue. If I haven't told you that every single time, I'm sure I have. Even kind of bitched about it in the early days. If you remember, where it's, oh man, it's going slow. I wish something would happen. But that's the Remender way. He builds the pot, builds the steam, you know, and just when it's about to boil over, he lets you have it. And, this is just so great. You get a great flashback involving Nick Fury and the Winter Soldier, and some background on this Chinese villain that's coming. You find out he was a former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. And then flash forward to the present, you see what's going on with Jet Black Zola, the daughter of Arnim Zola.
Jet Black Zola.
Who is training while Cap has been in bed for about 2 weeks, mourning the death of Sharon Carter. And Falcon sees on the news what we've seen in the last couple of issues, where Nuke was going over to places like Vietnam and some of these countries where we didn't fare so well, and foreign military engagements, and just slaughtering people and planting American flags all over their corpses. So they felt this was a really really terrible thing to do. Maria Hill, actually, I'm sorry, Falcon didn't see it on the news. Maria Hill called and told him to turn on the news. He was like, oh, fuck. I was like, well, Cap's really not ready to get out of bed right now, man. And he's like, well, tough shit, because he's the only person that can go over there and handle this without it turning into World War III. So, Cap's got to go over there and handle business, and him and Nuke have a knockdown, drag out slobber knocker. Falcon provides a little help, and they end up in a stalemate. So what's going to happen next issue? Hopefully Cap wins. As my history of reading comics, I'd say that's probably what happens, but you never know.
It's likely. It's likely. It reminds me, more spoilers from Thor. That was one of the funniest jokes in a movie with about 100 jokes. One of the funniest ones that landed was when Loki's running next to when him and Thor, when he's annoying Thor and he's running next to him, so he starts turning into different people. He's like, would you rather run with, would you rather be hanging out with this? And he turns into Cap and
that was awesome.
just starts making fun of him. Like, it was very funny.
Yeah, nice Chris Evans cameo there.
Yes.
I liked it. Heard the rumor that Doctor Strange was going to pop up in Thor for months, but that never came to pass unless he was just like there in the background somewhere, and then they'll come back later and be like, "Hey, Doctor Strange, is there?"
Yeah, I mean, the only pop-ups anybody knew was in the, as everyone knows by now, you got to wait through double credits. Which first one I predicted, I was like, God damn it, we're getting ready for credits, and I was like, I hope it's not them just eating. And then one of them was like, yep, it's just them eating. And the other one was a nice big one.
Yeah.
Also, terrible move. Also, Thor's friends are just complete idiots, but people can watch the movie for themselves.
Yeah.
Really, if Asgard, coming out of that movie, if Asgard gets, you could really look at it in a different way. Like, if you wanted to approach that movie in a way, like, looking at it deeper than what I think they're, like, going for, is that by Thor choosing love over responsibility, he really fucked everyone over. Because him going back for Jane Foster in the first place is what left him on guard. By him telling Jane Foster he's coming back, it calls her to search for him, which calls her to get the, whatever it is, the poison stuff.
The ether.
The ether in her, and then him going to save her and housing her there.
Well, Malekith knew she was there because she had the ether in her body.
Yes,
so
yes.
that's how he attacked them.
Yes, housing her there.
And killed his mother and all of those
His
people.
mother and everybody, yes. Housing her there, got everybody killed, and then trying to protect her, got his mom killed when she herself tried to protect her. And now Thor has decided to go back to Earth. Obviously, it made it look he turned down being the king so he can go to Earth for his true love, Jane. Not to defend Earth because he thinks it's cool, but just because she's there. And, you get to see that, somehow Loki is playing the part of their father and is ruling Asgard. And they gave one of the Infinity fucking gems to a dude who's going to end up handing him over to Thanos. All because Thor wanted some of that poontang. So yeah, it's all his fault. But anyways, pick of the week.
Thor wanted Queen Amidala's poontang.
Dude, I swear when they were standing there like looking, did you not see that? Like, there's a scene with like some great graphics where she first comes to Asgard and they're standing on a balcony and he's standing beside her. Like, all I could think of was Annie. Like, it's just she's all grown up now.
Yep, sure enough. Pick of the week. So happy to announce this as pick of the week. Amazing X-Men #1, the return to the Marvel Universe of one Kurt Wagner. Nightcrawler, one of my all-time favorite mutants, X-Men Marvel characters, period. He's back, baby. Well, he's not back yet, but we predict by the end of the issue he's probably back. I'm not going to give too many spoilers to the great Muji here because nobody wants to read this one. But half of the issue takes place in heaven, where Nightcrawler kicking it because he's dead. And
Well, you want to leave heaven? Comics.
Well, what's funny is like he's sitting on the edge of heaven and he's like all forlorn, and this dude comes up to him and he's like, "Hey man, you're in fucking paradise. What's up?" He's like, "I left my friends, have unfinished business and shit." But before he can mope too long, his dad, Azazel, shows up with a bunch of evil red bamfs and says he's taking over heaven, NWO style. Choo-choo-choo-choo-choo, we're taking over. And then, meanwhile, on Earth, we meet a new professor at Wolverine's Jean Grey School for the Gifted. Who is it? It is a former mutant of Marvel history past of Spider-Man and the Amazing Friends cartoon fame, Firestar.
That's no fame.
That's right. If you remember the classic team of Firestar, Iceman, and Spider-Man, of course, now that Kitty Pryde is bolted, Iceman's wasting no time trying to put the moves on her.
Iceman, that's just his thing now. It used to be they just joked about him being gay all the time, but now he's turned up his game. He's like, "You think I'm gay? I'll show you." I'm gay.
Wolverine told him he had to live up to his potential, you know. I mean,
What about Kitty Pryde, man? All new X-Men comes out next week, so I'll be excited to see where they go with that. But it really just feels like she just became like a super bitch.
just she kind of pulled a bitch move.
Yeah, she's like, "Fuck you guys. I want to do the thing that doesn't make sense, and because you wouldn't let me, I'm going to team up with the bad guys. See ya."
But they explain the Bamps. They also find out what the fuck is going on with them little blue elves that have been infesting the Wolverine school from the beginning.
They just pop up.
They've been building a machine in the fucking basement, and they're like, "What the fuck is this?" And they find out it's a dimensional portal, and then the issue ends. So
Cool.
there you go.
Well,
Fantastic.
good week.
Yeah, it was a really good week. I think I got 6 this week. It's not a giant week, but a good one.
I've run the same. I have 5 or 6, but
Walking Dead this week.
we both have Walking Dead,
Oh,
and then I've got the next Batman 0 Year, so that's enough. I don't know what else I got, but it doesn't matter.
the JLA and Smallville, Walking Dead, and then like Sons of Anarchy.
I think I have a Nightwing 0 Year tie-in with, it's Nightwing 0 Year tie-in with Dick as Robin, so I'm pretty pumped for that. A new 52 story of Robin Dick.
Are you sure it's the Nightwing one? I thought it was Batman and Robin.
Is it Batman and Robin?
The Robin story, yeah.
Oh man, I hope not, because then I gotta buy another book.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Double check on that.
Boo!
But
Well, so yeah, nice. It'll still be cool.
yeah, I got another Thor next week coming off the movie. That'll be cool. Right in the middle of a fight with Malekith in the book, so that's cool.
Nice,
They
nice
timed it
work.
nicely. And I think Deadpool next week.
Deadpool.
So
Cool. Well, that's exciting. So make sure you join us next week, and you can hear about more of our books and shit. Get your pulls.